Hello, this is Mark Sabatella from Outside Shore Music. In this video, I'm going to talk about sequence, which is a particular melodic development device in which you take a particular phrase and you repeat it a step higher or a step lower, and you can kind of do multiple repetitions like that, but really often we're going to see three of them in a row. So here's a passage from the Bach B-flat major fugue from Well-Tempered Clavier. And by the way, this whole handout we're looking at, this is actually from a whole lesson I have on imitation, different imitation techniques in my practical counterpoint course, but I really just wanted to focus on sequence here. So I'm going to let MuseScore play this passage, and then I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what's going on. So we have this melody, and you can either look at it, I'm going to follow actually the bottom part here. Is our phrase, and then it's repeated a step lower. And then it's repeated a step lower. And then it ends. And that's all there is to it. So we get that phrase, it's repeated a step lower, and it's repeated a step lower again. And that idea of the repeating things a step lower typically works out really well because of the circle of fifths. If you think about how the circle of fifths works, let's say we're, if we're in the key of B flat as we are, if we have 3 going to 6 and then coming to 2, that circle of fifths, and it's left us off a step lower than we started. And then 2 to 5 to 1, more circle of fifths, and it leaves us off a step lower than we started. We started on D, and now we're on C, and now we're on B flat. And then you could keep going kind of along the circle of fifths, go to 4, and then here. That pattern is going to keep moving you down in steps. And so that's kind of what this pattern does. It's not exactly that chord progression because there's diminished chords substituting and so forth, but I'm going to kind of play it with the kind of implied circle of fifth roots so you can kind of hear this. So the implied chord progression is circle of fifths, and it's going to keep pulling that line down in steps. So that's really common. The other one that I use as an example here is another really, this one's much more familiar than that B-flat major fugue. This is from Fiordaliso, and it has a slightly different pattern. Again, I'll let MuseScore just play it. So that's that. The pattern, this is the actual pattern. The full pattern is, and then it repeats. Right? So that pattern, ba-do-da-da-da, you could look at just this, ba-do-da-da-da, boo-da-da-da, boo-da-da-da, and say, hey, we've got like 3 different versions of it. But look at what's going on harmonically with it. This is actually what's kind of cool. This is the 3rd of that C chord. This D is now the 5th of that G chord. So what's really happened here is we haven't exactly duplicated it. This second measure isn't exactly the same as the first one. The first one, the melody was the 3rd of the chord. Now it's the 5th of the chord. But the next thing that happens is we're back to the 3rd of the chord and back to the 5th again. So it's really a 2-measure pattern that then repeats down a step. And what's especially fascinating to me about this pattern is it's not really the circle of fifths. If we follow the roots, it's a C chord with an E in the melody, and then a G chord with a D in the melody. So it's like 1 going to 5. It's backwards on the circle of fifths. And then it resolves deceptively. So now we're on A minor, the 6th chord. But we're back to the 3rd of the melody. And then it goes, the melody goes down a 4th. The bass goes down a 4th again. So this pattern is at the heart of that particular sequence. Does that sound familiar to you at all? Does it? Maybe not at that tempo, maybe not in that key. Oops. That's Pachelbel's canon, follows that exact same pattern. And so it's this sequence of how that bass line moves, down a fourth, up a step, down a fourth, up a step, down a fourth, up a step is the pattern there, and the melody is able to just descend. So it's kind of fascinating how that works out, but at least it's fascinating to me. Anyhow, those are a few examples of sequence that I thought maybe you might find interesting and useful to try to emulate.